I don't know why, I'm just disturbed. Please, someone come and save me. But the thing is, I'm not the only person on this planet that likes watching the human race be destroyed, which makes no sense, does it? But then when you go and watch people having to like kill their best friends because they're infected with a fungus and they're gonna die and go insane, you're like, okay, well, life ain't so bad after all. Maybe I'm actually living the dream. I'm like a mild doomsday prepper by now. Oh god, I sound insane. 14% of us think that we're gonna have humanitarian breakdown / apocalypse in our lifetimes. Today I watched the last episode of The Last of Us, a well-known video game that's been made into a TV series on HBO. It is notoriously quite gory, a little bit horror, and it's post-apocalyptic. And when I watched the last episode, I was kind of left sad, reeling, a little bit distressed. But the problem is, I, like many others, love post-apocalyptic shows. I don't know what's wrong with me. So I delved into it basically, and I was like, should we be watching them? Why do we like watching them? And is it okay for our mental health? And I was actually kind of surprised about what I found out, because it's not really what I expected. So today we're going to be getting into dystopian, post-apocalyptic TV and movie shows, TV shows and movies, and whether they're okay for us, should we be watching them. So if you're new here, guys, I'm Dawn, I'm a doctor, and I kind of cover all things mental health, self-improvement-y, and I know this is a little bit of a weird one, but I was kind of... The emotion that I was left with after finishing The Last of Us was very mixed, because on one hand, I fucking loved the show. There might be some spoilers, by the way, if you haven't watched it. On one hand, I loved it, and I actually want to watch it again. I don't know why, I'm just disturbed, okay? Please, someone come and save me. But the thing is, I'm not the only person on this planet that likes watching the human race be destroyed, which makes no fucking sense, does it? Anyway, so I watched the last episode, and I'm going to give away a spoiler here. I was left with significantly weird emotions because the relationship between the two main characters is very complex, but also basically they could have saved humanity, but they didn't, but one of them would have had to die to do that. Anyway, what I realised was I don't think I was upset about the fact that it was post-apocalyptic, etc., etc. I thought the bloody storyline was amazing, and as a lover of storytelling and stories just in general, I love telling stories myself. I really did think it was great, and I was kind of sad, well, number one, for it to finish, but also because, I don't know, because it's finished. I think that's the end of that one. So then I was like, okay, why? I've also watched so many other dystopian post-apocalyptic things. Okay, let me name them. The Hunger Games, post-apocalyptic, dystopian. Snowpiercer, I've got some of them up on here because apparently WALL-E is one. I guess so. They're in like those fat chairs, aren't they? A Quiet Place, I've watched that one. I Am Legend, yes. War of the Worlds, I'm just coming up with ones off the top of my head now. I've watched Shaun of the Dead. I haven't watched Dawn of the Dead, ironically. The Day After Tomorrow, 2012 I've watched. Sweet Tooth. Okay, that is on Netflix at the moment. Are there 2 seasons? I think there might be. I've watched all of it twice. I just love it. Firstly, it is a very romanticized version of post-apocalyptic world. And I think that's where I'm going to start is, firstly, we see this post-apocalyptic world and we think, wow, that's really like nice, and it's simple and it's calm and it's relaxing, and they fucking colour graded it and it looks beautiful because there's so much nature around. But in reality, would it be that nice? You know, you've got the constant fear of death, somebody potentially coming to kill you, or whatever the threat is, I don't know, like a virus or whatever. And I think the closest we've come to it is COVID. I was a little bit scared with COVID, but then I was kind of like, for fuck's sake, let's just get on with life. Like, why are we locking ourselves away? And I was of kind of the mindset of like, just let nature play its course, which I know is really bad. But I was also in a very bad state of mind because I was in a house all the time, and I am a very social person, so I was getting very frustrated. And I'm sure I'm not the only person that was thinking that. So I think some of it comes from our desire, I'm just talking generally now, but maybe our desire to just live a bit more naturally. Like, we've got a lot of medicine, we've got a lot of technology, but do we need it all? Like, can't we just have a simpler life where, well, if you get sick, you die, and if you can't find food, you die? I don't know. I think I'm very much oversimplifying this, and I think people do like a nice simple life, but I think we do romanticize these post-apocalyptic worlds because they are movies and we're not actually living it. There are actually people that are living those films. I don't think they're loving life. Let's just take, like, there's always those Oxfam adverts or videos on TV. I don't actually watch TV, so I don't see those adverts anymore. But I remember when I watched TV, there was a lot of them. And when I say I don't watch TV, I don't have a TV license, so I don't pay and watch terrestrial, aerial TV, whatever you call it. I watch Netflix and YouTube, like the majority of young persons nowadays. So, I don't see those adverts. Or maybe the children in Africa have just stopped dying, so there's no need to, they've just stopped starving, so there's no need to advertise anymore. No, that was a joke. I'm sure there's probably still people starving. But, they are, in reality, potentially living a post-apocalyptic world, if you get what I mean. Like, they have to go and find food, but then I suppose in some ways they're not, because maybe they are oppressed by a greater power. And the thing is, in post-apocalyptic world, everyone kind of not becomes equal, but there's no, money's gone, well, not gone, but we don't have banks, we don't necessarily have government, we don't have laws. Like, it's just sort of a bit of a free-for-all. So, it's not completely the same, but I'm just thinking, like, surely there are people that are living in difficult situations that aren't enjoying it and are not like, yeah, let's go watch a post-apocalyptic movie, that's going to make me feel so much better. So that would be interesting. If somebody wants to comment on that, I would be keen to hear. I think there is some merit in the simple life discussion. I have regularly wanted a simple life, and I don't know why I don't give it up. I think because there's nothing pushing me to give it up. I have often wanted a van, live in the van life. I've wanted sometimes just to like go and live in a field with a little, one of those tiny homes, or just go like camping or whatever on my own, which I have done before. Number one, it actually scares me a little bit, which I know is not great if I'm like, oh yeah, I want to live in a post-apocalyptic world where everyone murders each other. No, I would be terrified. I have fairly good survival skills, I've done lots of like bushcrafty stuff, so I wouldn't be the first to die, let's put it that way. And my health's fairly good, so I think hopefully, I would last a little bit. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I want to. Like, I feel like this is the problem, is I'm watching these shows and I'm like, yeah, that looks quite nice. But also I recognise that it also doesn't look nice. It also looks terrifying. So I'm a bit confused about how I feel about it. So especially those fucking, if you watch The Last of Us, it's about fungal infection. And honestly, the fungal infections are disgusting. I think fungal infections are one of the worst things ever. They're like just really concerning looking. I just don't like the look of them. So that is a troubling thing for me. But I think because there's nothing forcing me into a more simple life, no one's like, right, the world's ending, we've got to go live in a tent now. I'd be like, yeah, okay, fine. And when the Ukraine-Russian war started, you know, we were thinking, oh, maybe we should get like a grab bag and stuff like that. And I still want to create one of those, like a grab bag for like, I'm like a mild doomsday prepper by now. So I'm thinking I get some stuff together, you know, just some stuff to light a fire, and just some stuff to purify some water for like a week or something. Oh God, I sound insane. But, you know, 14% of us on average throughout the whole world, some countries, I think Turkey was the highest of 22%, and the UK was at like 8%. I think that we're going to have some kind of humanitarian breakdown / apocalypse in our lifetimes. But actually, if you look at the science, scientists have just said, well, it's probably going to be like 500,000 years to 22 billion years. So I think we've got quite a few generations in between us. The likelihood of it happening is fairly low, and there's been a lot of humans for a long time. So I don't know. Yeah, I think the thing is, the Industrial Revolution, global warming and stuff like that is not an issue that plagued the past, but it's an issue that plagues now with technology, etc. So, and we've got scary people like Mark Zuckerberg trying to make us all live in the metaverse. So, you know, it's not impossible. Oh, I forgot Black Mirror on the list. There's lots of old films as well, but I just don't watch old films. I just don't like them. Sorry, I don't. So, yeah, I was saying simpler life, but would it be nice? I don't know. It's kind of weird because I was sitting down to just do this podcast and I was like, if it did happen, like, I was kind of like, what's the point of having a podcast? But I mean, there is no point of having a podcast if the world is crumbling as you know it. And I'm sure technology would fall. And that's the common theme, is technology tends to fall in these post-apocalyptic dystopian, no, not the dystopian ones actually, the post-apocalyptic worlds. I also watch the dystopian stuff. I don't know why. I think it's more of a commentary on the fact that I don't want to become like that. So I'm like, no, I'm not going to live with like a VR headset on all the time, all those glasses. I still haven't got a smartwatch. Look, my wrists are naked wrists, because I'm just a bit like, do I need one? No. I actually quite like not knowing what the time is. I don't want my fucking wrist buzzing at me all the time. In fact, my phone is constantly on silent. It annoys people, but it doesn't annoy me. So that's probably the best thing. I don't reply to messages very quickly. So I'm like not the opposite of technology, but I just, no thanks. So I do like watching it to be like, no, I'm not going to let this like control my life. And I think I was just adjusting the exposure because it was looking a little bit much. I think there is something to be said for watching these things and being like, right, that's the worst it can get. I don't want my life to become like that. So, you know, you watch Black Mirror, for example. It's on Netflix as well if you want to go watch it. It's a dystopian thing. It's generally about kind of technological weird shit is the only way I can describe it. And it's basically, let's say one of the episodes, like an ICU patient. It's probably one of my favourite. But basically they've got this like thing where you can upload your brain and life or something to a server, and you, depending on how much money you have, you can spend as much time or as little time in this server as you want. And there's like a lady who's paralyzed, but she's like living her life through this imaginary universe. But it's kind of scary, and it's like, oh, I don't really want life to become that way. But by thinking, okay, that could be the worst case scenario, number one, life is better than that now, so that's positive. So it does make you feel better about the here and now, but also it might make you go, oh, I don't want that to happen. That is a scary thought. So you might push back on buying a brain microchip. The thing is, I think people are like, oh yeah, brain microchip, ooh, gross, I would never get that. Guys, you've already fucking got one pretty much. Those Apple Watches, those smartwatches, etc., they are just external brain chips. Like, oh my god, I sound insane again. But like, they're just a stepping stone, you know? They're just going to work their way. Then they'll be on your face. Then they'll be in your brain. So someone might clip that one day, because it's actually true. It's like when Anne Frank wrote in her diary, like, oh my god, I can't believe if somebody like read this, and now millions of people have read her diary. So, yeah, it does feel better to think, okay, my life is actually better than what's on TV. That's always great, you know, because you look at Instagram, you think, God, my life's shit. I'm not in Bali owning a villa and like stroking elephants every day. Why can't I be doing that? Why am I not a millionaire? But then when you go and watch people having to like kill their best friends because they're infected with a fungus and they're going to die and go insane, you're like, okay, well, life ain't so bad after all. Maybe I'm actually living the dream. There's also another thing. I would say there's a kind of comfort in thinking, okay, my primal instincts and my physical abilities and, you know, primal abilities would be able to be utilised. And it's not just about like societally, oh, well, I was born into a royal family, therefore I am rich and I am the best. No, if you can't fucking survive, money ain't going to help you now. So it just kind of equals people onto more of a level playing field. And you feel like, well, my skills are more utilisable because, well, there ain't nothing else. So that's always a little bit reassuring. But yeah, a lot of psychologists have said it's a coping mechanism and it's actually like maybe a good thing, because it's like if you can see the worst case scenario, then it's settling. You're like, oh, okay, I've seen the worst case scenario. It can't get worse than that. So yeah, I've got it all figured out. There's also some kind of knowledge of having something so uncertain and unknown is actually quite unsettling. People don't like to not know what's going to happen. On the other hand, there are some people who don't want to know what's going to happen. And yes, there are opposite ends of the spectrum. And I would say there are some people who aren't going to watch these shows no matter what. Like, some people it's going to be really anxiety provoking and really kind of scary, and they don't like the horror. Like my mum, for example, like I could never see her watching The Last of Us. Like she doesn't like blood. I just don't feel like she would watch it. So there are some people who wouldn't benefit from it. And also I think there's some merit in potentially protecting children from it. And I think there are some children appropriate post-apocalyptic shows, because it's not that there's like a you shouldn't let children watch it, but it's maybe you shouldn't let children watch all the gore and the jump scares and all of that stuff, but actually teaching them about climate change and post-apocalyptic world stuff and dystopia and technology advancement is actually a very potentially useful thing, depending on the child. I mean, you know, there are, again, some children with maybe anxiety that wouldn't be good for, but it might be good at improving resilience. I think that's just situation dependent. I think, however, the biggest draw of post-apocalyptic shows is that they are fucking banging stories. Like, humans love a good story, me included. You better get that right. And because these shows and movies, they have such high stakes, as in there's a lot riding on it. Life or death, essentially. There's also a lot of relationships between the characters. We can often see ourselves or see our family or see our friends in these situations. We can put ourselves in these protagonists' shoes. So it's not like a distant thing. It's like we feel very connected to it. So I think the stories are just really good. You know, but when you have a lot riding on something, a lot riding on a storyline, and there's potential for a lot of drama and potential for people to die, like, and potential for you to lose the one you love, and potential for humanity to end. And, well, you could maybe save humanity. You know, the stakes are so high. So that makes a hugely compelling story. Like, it really does. Often the CGI is really good. The, the building of the complex character, because they often show you prior to the apocalypse, they show you that as well, so you can kind of see, oh well, that's like normal life, that's my life. Like, they're getting up, they have an alarm clock or an iPhone, and they get up and they brush their teeth with their electric toothbrush. Do you know what I mean? It's like, oh shit, like that could be me tomorrow. And it's grounding. So I think, in terms of, this is probably one of the funniest things that I read, actually. Was, you know, those Doomsday Prepper shows? Very popular on something, I've forgotten now, but some ABC maybe? It was an American thing. Very popular. Basically, someone, it was an article. They basically said that Doomsday Preppers feel more settled, feeling their anxiety is like relieved because they have a goal to work towards. And it's like, okay, I have a goal, like I'm going to collect all this food and I'm going to prepare for the end of the world or societal breakdown or, I don't know, the bomb drops or something like that. Then I will have loads of food and I'm prepared. And some people love being prepared, you know? I mean, I've got fucking loads of cans of beans in my cupboard, not on purpose, but also, like, you know, if the worst did happen, I'd survive maybe a couple of weeks, maybe even, do you know what, maybe even longer, maybe even like a month. No, maybe longer. Honestly, there's so much fucking food in that cupboard you would not believe. And I think some people do get settled in the thought that, oh well, there's an end point to life. Which doesn't really work in my brain. Like, for me, I would just prefer it if there was no apocalypse. That would be great. If we could just carry on, the world starts, you know, getting better, we're nicer to the world. But I do think a lot of people think that humans are parasites, and if we all disappeared, or a lot of us disappeared, I'm not adverse to this theory as well. I don't like the idea of it, but, you know, I am a bit like, there's some horrible fucking people in this world, and we're killing a lot of animals, and I love animals, and we're killing a lot of plants, and I love plants. So it wouldn't be too much of a problem if the apocalypse were to happen and we were to restore some of the, you know, the world and let nature come back, you know. And I think a lot of people are thinking that. That's a common thought. So I guess to summarize, like, is it okay to watch them? I think in moderation, yes. Like, I was kind of surprised to see a lot of information that was like, yeah, like, they act as a coping mechanism. They're actually sometimes good for people's mental health. Obviously, if they freak you out, if they give you anxiety, if they give you stress, blah, 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 probably not good for you. But on the other hand, there's people like me who kind of like it. And I love the storylines, and it does make me feel kind of, I don't know if it's intrigue or whether it makes me feel settled, like it's a coping mechanism. Either way, I'm not going to stop watching them. I'm waiting for the new Sweet Tooth. Wait, I can't remember if it came out. Anyway, I'm waiting for all the new seasons to come out of everything. And I will continue to watch them, despite it maybe not being good for me. I don't know. But also, I feel like I kind of learned something from them, like a bit, you know, how to, like, survive. So it's like, well, maybe it's not all that bad. It's like watching Bear Grylls. You know, the Bear Grylls Born Survivor. I was like, what's his thing called, his show? Born Survivor. And I've watched a lot of survival programs and done a survival course, not because I was like, oh my god, the end of the world, but because I'm kind of interested in it, and I would like to I like living a bit off the land, you know. If If Tom were like my boyfriend, if he were like mega into it, as in moving to like a random field somewhere, I would be up for it. Would I still have a car? Yes, because I like to come and see humans. But I also thought the other day, I was like, I quite like a horse, like just a horse, and I tie it up somewhere and I go and do my thing. But like, that's not socially acceptable to take a horse to Tesco. So what are you going to do? I have to walk or go by car. No horses for me. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed that. If you did, give it a like. If you didn't, then just leave. And if you're listening on the podcast, please give it a 5-star review. That'd be super helpful, and also it boosts my ego, so I'm not going to lie. And yeah, I upload every Monday and Thursdays, and I love speaking to you guys. If you have any topics that you want me to cover, like leave it in the comments down below or send me an email, contact@diariesofadoctor.com, and I will see you later this week. Bye.